Okay. Okay, so in less than 2 weeks is Shavuos. So I'm just practically, I'm just going to give you guys some practical stuff and then some more insightful stuff. So Shavuos begins May 21st in the evening, candle lighting at 7:34 p.m. So first of all, let's do prep for Shavuos. So Shavuos is the day Hashem gave the Torah. Shavuos means weeks. There's actually a few names for Shavuos, which we'll go through. The weeks is because we count 7 weeks, right, from Pesach to Shavuos. That's the countdown from when the Jews left Egypt till they received the Torah. Um, and that's when we count the Omer. Shavuos is also called Yom HaBikurim, which is the day of the first fruits, because that is when the people would bring their first fruits. I'll tell you what they did was that, right, the Jews originally came to Israel as farmers, to do agriculture. And when the first buds on the trees would start to bud, they would tie a ribbon around those buds. They knew which things were coming out first. And then they would take those first fruits that grew to the Beis HaMikdash to give as a gift to Hashem, to the Kohanim. And they wouldn't just give it to them like in a bag, but they would actually get like a nice basket. If they could afford, they would have a gold basket or a silver basket. If not, they would make a beautiful basket out of reeds and stuff. And they would bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. And this was, and every year when they would bring it, over how many years passed since they came to the land of Israel, they would say a whole prayer thanking Hashem for taking them out of Egypt, taking their ancestors out of Egypt and bringing them to the land of Israel to be able to, to be, when I say independent, serve Hashem, be free, and work the land. So it's a lesson for us that, so many years later, no matter what, they always had felt this gratitude, this gratefulness to Hashem. And that's what we need to do in our life. Remember to have this idea of being grateful to Hashem for everything He gives us, no matter how old it is. The third, hi, who's Benny? Okay. Oh, I know. That's Shelly. I'm like thinking,
Shelley.
who is Benny?
Shelley.
What man is sneaking in and you're on mute, so we can't hear you.
Hi, Shelley.
Hi, I didn't see the
Happy
text.
Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you as well. I'm so sorry. Happy Mother's Day to everybody, mothered or not.
I was a dog mommy, so
Well, you guys are like hosts. We're all
dog
mothers
mommy for almost 17 years. So.
Exactly, like you said in the text.
Yeah.
Reading, but I didn't see the text and just was busy and here I am.
Okay, so we
Awesome.
just started, but we're recording. So anyway,
Awesome.
So we're talking about the names of Shavuos. So it's a lesson for us to always give gratitude, no matter how long, many years later. We always should remember, when someone, or of course Hashem, does something good for us. The third name that Shavuos is Chag HaKatzir, which means the holiday of the harvest, because the first harvest was done, I guess, around the time of Shavuos, and we'd be again thanking Hashem, being happy that we have this bounty, this harvest. And another name is Atzeres, like Shmini Atzeres, like Torah. So that's the idea of stop, meaning we stop and we don't do work on this day. But also, I think Atzeres means like the end, like it's the end of like just like Shmini Atzeres is the end of the Sukkot holiday. Shavuos is the end of like the Pesach, the time between Pesach, and those days. So it's kind of the end of this counting and the end of these days. And then it's also called in the Torah Matan Torah Seinu, the time of the giving of the Torah, because of course, what's Shavuos all about? It's the day Hashem gave us the Torah, the day we received the Torah. Okay, so before Shavuos, what do? We need to prep ourselves, and that is go out, buy some flowers, and decorate your house, decorate the synagogue with flowers. This is to commemorate Mount Sinai, that Mount Sinai grew beautiful overnight. Hashem made a super bloom and a whole bunch of flowers grew all over the mountain, so a tree would be pretty for accepting the Torah. I mean, originally the reason Hashem picked Mount Sinai was a simple plain mountain. It was quote unquote humble. It wasn't like huge and boastful and big, but it's a lesson for us that we should be humble. The next thing we need to do before Shavuos is make sure to go out and buy or make our favorite dairy food, whether it's a cheesecake or get some ice cream or any other great, wonderful dairy foods, because on Shavuos, it's a custom to eat dairy food. Oh, hi, Sylvia. Great. Wow. Okay. So why do we eat
Don't
dairy
forget
food?
pizza.
Pizza.
Don't forget pizza.
How about, yeah.
Cheese
Okay.
blintzes.
Cheese blintzes.
Yeah.
Well, whoever's coming to the Rosh Hashanah Society next Sunday night, God, hopefully, I'll have some cheese blintzes. So if I have the time to make it.
I have another Jewish event that day at the Lux
Oh.
Hotel.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, hopefully they'll
But,
have cheese blintzes
dude,
there
I always
too.
miss the ones with the good food.
If you don't make it then, we'll have it on Shavuos and show, hopefully. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
okay. Anyway, so why do we eat dairy food? So there's a few simple reasons and there's a few more deeper reasons. So one is that the Jews, they get the Torah, they learn the laws of kosher, and they say, oh no, our dishes, our pots, or whatever are not kosher. We have to, kosherize them. We have to, what's it called? Put them in the hot water or burn them or whatever it is, or make new pots, depending what their pots and pans and dishes were made out of. So it can take time. But dairy is something simple and easy to eat. You don't really need to use like major preparation to have dairy. So they were able to, milk the cow or goat or whatever they had with them, and they were able to hang the milk and make some cottage cheese or some cheese or whatever they did, make some cream and have their dairy without much utensil, without much time, without taking too much time. Another reason is that meat itself, it takes time you have to learn how to slaughter. You have to get, slaughter an animal, salt it, soak it, whatever, salt it, and so to make it kosher. So that can takes time. So eating dairy was just easier. Another reason is that Torah is like milk. It's nourishing, right? Especially for a young child. It's a very nourishing. And the Hebrew word for milk is chalav. Chalav, if you take the letters of chalav, it equals 40, because ches is 8, lamed is 30, and beis is 2. And how long was Moshe on the mountain to get the Torah? 40 days and nights. So it reminds us of the 40 days and nights that Moshe was on the mountain. Another reason that we have milk is milk shows humility. So in the old days, they didn't have plastic and paper. I don't know, maybe they had glass, maybe they had, but a lot of times they would use earthenware, they'd use gold, silver types of goblets and things. But milk doesn't do well in metal, like in silver or gold. It keeps better in ceramic and earthenware. So the milk, because it's an earthenware is a more simple type of material. And so that shows humility. And Torah reminds us to be humble people. Or it stays with humble people. If you're arrogant when you're learning Torah, I guess you won't keep. Okay, another reason is that Moshe, right, he was born on the 7th of Adar, okay? He was born 3 months early. So his mother was able to hide him and keep him from the Egyptians for 3 months. Once he was 3 months old, he knew they were going to start looking to see if she had a baby. So what day did she put him in the basket in the Nile River? On the 6th of Sivan, which is the day of Shavuos. Oh. So this is the day that Moshe was put in the basket. What happens, right? We all know the story. Batya takes him out. She tries to get someone to nurse him. He doesn't want to nurse, only from a Jewish mother. So to remind us of Moshe and how he only would nurse from a Jewish mother, which ended up being his own mother, we have dairy, we have milk. Okay. Another thing is we were our newborn nation. So newborns have milk, right? Mother's milk. And I think the final reason that I'm going to share with you, but there are more reasons. The final reason is that when the Jews got the Torah, it says they saw the thunder and heard the lightning. Okay, so it was a very visual experience. It was a very sensory experience. For milk to be kosher, it has to be watched by a Jewish person. The milking of the cow, the goat, whatever the animal, has to be watched by a Jewish person. It's a visual. Visual makes the animal, the dairy kosher.
How?
So,
Yeah.
okay, so let's go. We're going to go back on this one. Okay, so basically, is kosher milk, Chalav Yisrael, it means that a Jewish person has to watch the milking of the animal. Okay, and that is all across the board for many, many thousands of years. That's how we knew milk was kosher. You saw it being milked, you could drink it. Came the United States and the USDA, the FDA, one of those things, USDA, and they and people came to America and they didn't live on farms as we were just discussing, Catherine. We started living in big
Yes.
cities, but not on farms anymore, and not in little small places, and people didn't have their own cow or goat, or their neighbor didn't have a cow or a goat, and people had to rely on commercial production, and it was very hard to get milk that was watched by a Jew around the United States. And people asked, what should they do? What could they do? And there was a rabbi, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, a very great rabbi, who said that if a woman or a baby or child, not baby, but a child, needs milk for their nourishment, because the government regulates the milk, and it says that, that it says cow milk, it has to be cow milk, it's okay to use. And then that ended up snowballing into anything that's American, milk or whatever, ends up being kosher milk, because unless it says on it that it's made out of some other animal. Although many people don't hold by that, including me, we only drink milk that still is watched by a Jewish person. So actually, I know somebody, or I know more than one person, who actually does that. They literally have to have a rabbi on the farm like 24/7, because they're milking, especially these busy farms, are milking cows, all the time, even Shabbos. So there's sometimes there's couples or there's people that live on the farm and they take turns, that there's always somebody on, during production to see that the milk is being milked by a Jew. And that's Chalav Yisrael, kosher milk, or Jewish milk. And all the other milk, the OUD, the general milk that, that are dairy products, those rely on that leniency that the government is regulating the milk, and we know that it should be from a cow, if that's what it says on the bottle, or if it doesn't say anything, we assume it's cow's milk. Okay, so anyway, so because the milk of a Jew has to be watched, has to be seen, drinking milk reminds us that the sounds of the giving of the Torah was visible. So it reminds us of that. Okay. So we get all our stuff that we need for Shavuos, as I said, the dairy, the flowers, we light the candles. So this year it comes out next Thursday, the 21st at 7:34 p.m. Shavuos is 2 days, so we're going to light candles again the next night at 7:35 p.m. because it's Friday going into Shabbos. And that night, the first night, we have a holiday dinner. We just like with Kiddush and challah and all the regular, just like Shabbos, a holiday dinner. And then there's a custom, which we'll discuss all the whys of this custom, is to stay up all night and learn Torah. So it's really an obligation for the men, although obviously many communities, everyone joins. And the idea is to stay up till dawn, at least. So nowadays, I think this time of year is around 4:30 in the morning. And they learn Torah. And then the next really important thing about Shavuos is, so on the first day of Shavuos, which comes out Friday, the reading of the Torah that day is the 10 Commandments. And the Rebbe had very strongly called that all Jewish people, men, women, children, even babies, should all come to shul to hear the 10 Commandments being read from the Torah on Shavuos Day. So just a side note that here in Chabad House, we have the regular Torah reading time, like when we're doing the regular Shachar services in the morning. And then we have an extra Torah reading just in case people miss the morning. They can come at 5 o'clock and hear the 10 Commandment reading then. And we serve pizza and ice cream. And, obviously it's geared for kids, but it's for anyone who didn't get to hear it in the morning. So getting back to the morning, we do the Ten Commandment reading in the morning. When davening is over, that's when we have the traditional dairy meal. And that's basically the main things of Shavuos, like the main, I'll say, customs of Shavuos: the dairy meal, the hearing the Ten Commandments, the staying up all night and learning. And then the second night, it just continues as a regular holiday meal. And the second day of Shavuos, which this year falls out on Shabbos, May 23rd, is Yisker. So anyone who has to say Yisker has to make sure to come that day to Shul, the 23rd. Okay, so it's a pretty easy holiday. No eating outside, no eating matzah, no, staying in shul all day and all night. Okay, and Shavuos is like the wedding, commemorates the wedding of Hashem and the Jewish people. So we are the bride, and Hashem is the groom. And Moshe, it says, was the shadchan, was the matchmaker. So we prepared ourselves for 3 days. The Jewish people had to prepare themselves to receive the Torah. It's a very holy event. It was something that they were looking forward to, right? They're coming 40 days from leaving Egypt to come walking in the desert, to come to this special event. And the Torah itself is the marriage contract. And what's the bond, the oneness, the intimacy between the Jewish people and Hashem? That is every mitzvah that we do. Every time we do a mitzvah, it's as we bind together with Hashem. It's like our oneness with Hashem when we do a mitzvah. So every year on Shavuos, it's like we renew our commitment. We renew our marriage commitment to Hashem. So the moment of the giving of the Torah was a very special, very holy, never happened before and never happened after, at least yet, on the planet, on the earth. It was when the heavens and the earth joined together. And I know I've said this many times before, but till this point in time, anything that was spiritual stayed spiritual. Anything that was physical stayed physical. There was no intermingling or fusion of any of this type of thing. For example, it says that, I think Yaakov, it was, that did the mitzvah tefillin by peeling the strips of the sticks that he used to, whatever, the whole story with how he made the sheep, Lavan's sheep, change colors and shapes, whatever. It's a whole long story. But there was nothing that if you put on tefillin, or if you did something with that thing didn't stay holy. Today, if you have a pair of tefillin, say, oh my gosh, this tefillin is holy. You can't bring it into a bathroom. You can't put it on the floor. You can't, God forbid, throw it in the trash can. It's a very holy thing. It has to be buried. But before that, just because something was used for something, for something spiritual, it did not stay holy. Today, that changed. Once Hashem gave the Torah, once the heaven and the earth, quote unquote, kissed, it gave a whole new meaning to heaven and earth and to our life in this world. So now we could take the spiritual, we take the mitzvahs, and we put them in physical objects, right? Anytime you use anything from mitzvah, anything with a good intention for serving Hashem, that physical thing now becomes holy. And it elevates that thing. And not just that, but it's making, when you do that, it makes space for Hashem. It brings Hashem into the home, right? This world is Hashem's home. And when we do any mitzvah, when we make that holy space, when we do something holy with a physical object, that physical object gives space for Hashem to come into this world. He comes and enjoying his home. And that is the fusion of heaven and earth. It's also kind of a metaphor for our own selves, because we have a body, we have a soul, right? The body is very physical. The soul is spiritual. And it doesn't seem that they could work together. But really, they don't have to be at odds with each other, right? You can have the soul pulling you in one direction, your body pulling you in a different direction. And instead, you can make them work together. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We fuse the body, which is physical, and the soul, which is spiritual, and make let the soul drive the body. So the physical body will be used for spiritual things. And again, there's that same idea of the fusion and the working together and making space for the godliness by using our body for our soul. So something really interesting happened. we said they were so excited. They leave Egypt. They know they're going to receive the Torah. They're going for 40 days. The 3 days they settle in the desert of Sinai, the Sinai desert, and Hashem says, prepare for 3 days to receive the Torah. As we said before, cleanse yourself, go to the mikvah. There's different things, and men and women had to, like the woman couldn't, the husbands and wives couldn't be intimate together. They had to like be very, very holy and pure. And then it says in the morning of the receiving of the Torah, it says Moshe went to gather the people. And what does that mean? He went to gather the people. They would think after all this excitement, they'd be coming and running and be there and ready to their wedding day with Hashem, to receive the Torah, the moment they've been waiting for. And, something big about to happen, right? You have something exciting happening, you can't sleep all night before. You're up preparing, or you're like waking up, okay, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Should I get out of bed? So what does it mean that Moshe went out to get them? It says that he went to wake them up. It says, wake up, come. Hashem is here to marry you. The stage is set. Why are you still in bed sleeping? Does that make any sense? How could they still be sleeping in bed? It even says that the night was sweet and short, and that the mosquitoes did not even come to bite them overnight. They're in the desert. They've had a lot of mosquitoes waking them up all night. But even the mosquitoes didn't come to bother them overnight. So how could it be that they overslept the night before this huge event? So there's a rabbi, Shimon Schwab, and he says it wasn't a mistake. It's not like they accidentally just fell asleep and just forgot to wake up, but they intentionally slept. And how could that be? Why is that? So they all knew that they were going to meet Hashem on this day, right? And from what they knew till this point, besides for Moshe, any person that ever had any prophecy, when Hashem ever spoke to anyone, it says it always says that like they had to lay down or they were in a dream, Hashem came to them. No person besides for Moshe did Hashem come and speak to them while they were up and awake and standing. And so they said, hey, if Hashem's going to come to us and speak to us and give us the Torah, we probably need to be sleeping. We probably need to be sleeping, and he'll come to us in a dream. He'll come to us when we're like in an unconscious state. So they figured if they go to sleep, they'll be properly prepared, and then Hashem will come to them in their sleep to tell them. Now, why sleep? Why do you need to sleep to get this prophecy or get this connection to Hashem? What's so powerful about sleep? Okay, so as we learned in other classes, right, when we go to sleep at night, our soul goes up to heaven and like gets a little accounting. Hashem checks out what's going on in our soul, and there's some communication between our soul and Hashem. And then when we wake up, right, the soul comes back into us. Another way of putting it, like we have all this like noise and all this distractions down here on earth. But when we sleep, our soul it's like it drowns out the noise, and it's able to turn into the spiritual signals that Hashem is trying to give it, and without all that extra noise. So, for example, when a Jewish person in times of the Beis Hamikdash would bring a sacrifice to the Beis Hamikdash, it says that he would bring the sacrifice, and one of the conditions was he had to sleep overnight in Jerusalem after the day that he brought the sacrifice, like that night. Why is that? Because bringing the sacrifice was a way of like becoming close to God, a way of like connecting to God. And part of that process was also the sleeping process after the sacrifice was given, after the offering was given. So they'd go to sleep, and because they were in Jerusalem, it was a more holy place, because they just gave the sacrifice, they were more holy. And then the soul was able to like finish up, like get the last licks or whatever it is that it needed from the process of giving this offering. So they said, hey, when you sleep, you get all this like, it's good spiritually for you. It's something for the soul gets deeper than when you're conscious. So maybe we need to sleep. But they made a little mistake, because Torah is not prophecy. Torah is something different. Torah is much greater. When someone has a prophecy from God, it's one-sided. It's one-sided communication. Hashem is telling them what to do. They're in a sleep. They're in, whatever it is. And that's it. They wake up and that's what they have to do. But Torah is something that's engaging. We engage. It's two-sided. we learn when we're awake, right? On alert. We toil in the Torah. We engage in the Torah. When we're learning Torah, it's like we're speaking and communicating with Hashem. It's not just a one-sided thing. It's a back and forth. So you can't be asleep or unconscious when you're learning or engaging in Torah. You have to be fully aware. And that's how you grow in Torah. So another thing it says they stood at the mountain. They stood at the foot of the mountain because you had to stand, you had to be awake, you had to be standing like, at attention and ready for this great event. And what is this great event? A wedding. A wedding isn't a one-sided thing. Both sides have to be involved, right? In a marriage and a wedding. So with prophecy, yes, someone could be laying down as a one-sided thing. But the whole giving of the Torah was to engage our body, not to put it to sleep, to fuse our body with the spiritual, with mitzvahs, let the soul line up within the body, right? Work within the body, not that the body's asleep and then the soul could just feel good, but we have to actually make it work together, like we mentioned before. So this is the one of the lesson of why the Jewish people thought sleeping was good, why they slept, and that's why we stay up all night on Shavuos to learn Torah, to show that we're engaging, we're part of it, it's part of us, it's not a one-sided thing. And of course, Shavuos is all about the Torah. And so not just on Shavuos, but going into the whole year, we should try to put aside time every day, every week to learn some Torah. And if anyone has any questions, any comments, about Shavuos, about the giving of the Torah, I'd love to continue the conversation.
Yeah, that was interesting about the sleep. I didn't know that before. I was thinking like over Shabbat that for like the Jubilee year after Shemitah, like the 7, years times 7, 49 years, that's like 49, like the days,
Exactly.
And I was thinking how all the numbers correlate so well and what the ultimate meaning of that is.
Right. No, definitely. It is all connected to the same. Yeah, definitely. It's all very interesting. And 7 in general is always going on cycle and on nature. So 7 times 7 is even like a stronger point of that idea, the nature. And then the Jubilee, the 50, I guess, is above. 50 is also the highest level of holiness that you could reach. There's 50 levels of holiness.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shavuos is like, in observance, it's sort of like Shabbat. No driving, all of that.
Correct. Right. It's one of the 3, the Shalosh Regalim, the 3 holidays, festivals that the
Right.
Jewish people would go up to Yerushalayim, to the Beis HaMikdash.
Right.
And serve Hashem there, yeah.